There's an indispensable specialty of every anime season. No matter how many you pick, there are always at least a few trashy ones. Those are the ones where you can watch for 5 minutes and predict the entire season, and sometimes you don't even need to watch, just reading the title is enough. Yet this time, I decided to make content about an extremely trashy series, even the trashiest in history. You're probably thinking I'm dissing some. No, not really. Because that series is all about trash piling up in a dump. We're surrounded by trash. Introducing the all-powerful rookie of the shonen anime world, Gachiakuta. Gachiakuta is truly different. Largely thanks to the amazing worldview it creates. The character designs are cool enough, but the power system is equally interesting. And today I'll talk about all of that. So, let's dive into the trash, shall we? Please note that this video will contain some minor spoilers from the content of the manga, just minor ones, because it won't significantly affect your experience. Later on, just keep that in mind. We have 2 special spaces, which are also important symmetries in the world structure of Gachi. These are the celestial realm, sphere, and the human realm, ground. Simply put, it's about the upper-class people living high above the clouds, and the lower-class people living near the Earth's core. This world division clearly reflects the important goal of conveying the message about class division and social stratification. First, let's talk about the celestial realm. It looks like a giant floating platform suspended in the clouds. Even this upper-class area is divided into 2 strata. One side is the elite, and the other is the bottom of society. The living areas of these 2 strata are also clearly demarcated by a large wall. On one side is a pristine modern area for the wealthy folks, in stark contrast to the dark and dilapidated slums. On the Kier side, the contempt of the rich for the poor is very evident. And Rudo is the character who shows us that. He lives in the slums, with a strange hobby of collecting trash. It must be added that the upper class lives extremely wastefully. If they see a slight scratch on a shirt, they might just throw it away. They wouldn't add water to a shampoo bottle to keep using it. Like us poor folks. They're discarded trash. It's collected, and Rudo often goes there to rummage through it, to see if he can pick up anything usable or sellable. He believes that every object has its own value, and if you care for an object long enough, you can bestow a soul upon it. And this belief strongly influenced Rudo's power, which I will elaborate on later. In the celestial realm, there is also a military and legal system. Calling it a military might be an overstatement, but generally, they are guardians, whose duty is to maintain order. They are collectively called apostles. Anyone who commits a serious crime will face an extremely cruel punishment, being thrown into the abyss. When standing at the edge of the celestial realm and looking down, you won't be able to see the bottom. It's just an endless, deep, black expanse. Along the cliffs, there are also giant pipes, constantly dumping trash into the chasm. And yeah, like every crappy protagonist origin story, Rudo was thrown down there, because people believed he killed his foster father. But instead of dying, he woke up in a land filled with trash. That is the human realm. Ground. The counterpart of the celestial realm is the land where all the waste from the celestial realm falls. Ground and sphere also have many other names, such as heaven and earth, depending on each character's perspective. For example, the people in the celestial realm also call the human realm hell, simply because they have no idea about the human realm's existence, while in reality, people still live there, and they have to bear the full brunt of the waste that those living above them discard every day. You might think, why don't they look down and know? But in reality, between the 2 worlds, there exists a colossal space, called the border. As I mentioned earlier, looking down from the celestial realm, one only sees a dark expanse, an endless void. As for from the human realm, looking up, it's also just a thick mist. The border is the most mysterious part of the entire series. Anyone who enters the space of the border, whether falling from the sky like Rudo, or emerging from the ground like another character later on, will all see a mysterious, huge, pitch-black entity, coiling itself in the darkness far in the distance. The only thing we know so far is that it's named the Watchman, the Guardian. The name itself sounds important. Indeed, it's certain that the truth about that entity will be a shocking twist. Although the division between the celestial realm and the human realm is a central focus of the entire Gachiakuta world, the setting, however, so far, mostly still takes place in the human realm. The waste falling from the celestial realm causes very serious impacts, and honestly, I don't even understand why. How could they produce so much waste? The amount of trash in the human realm is truly so vast that there are areas where all you see is trash in every direction, and you can't even find the way in or out. Humans have to face trash rain and trash storms. Trash falling from the sky is so common that it's one of the leading causes of death, especially during large trash storms. So, you might be wondering, how can people still live there? The reason is that the human realm is divided into many different regions. People have predicted the trajectories of the trash storms to build many cities and towns, with large walls covering most residential areas. People in the human realm all wear a device called a choker. Although phones still exist, chokers seem to be a more private form of communication, especially among organizations operating here. Like the Cleaning Association, for example. I'll talk about this association later. Users cannot contact all AS that own chokers because they are not connected via open channels. Instead, to connect, those who wish to communicate with each other need to share blood with each other by dripping it onto the choker. This action will create a link between the two devices. Chokers are circular and look like a black wristband with a white rectangle in the middle. As the name choker suggests, they are usually worn around the neck. However, some people also wear them on their wrists like bracelets. The size of the device can change to fit a variety of wearers. Similar to the heavenly realm, the human realm also has a rich-poor divide, but it's not very distinct, because, in the end, they are all people living with trash, just the same, because safe zones are the only safe places to live comfortably, so the cost of living here becomes expensive, and those who cannot afford to live in the safe areas are pushed into cramped communities located near the border with the polluted areas. If you are in the safe zone, the air is still breathable, but in the polluted areas, there's too much waste, making the air extremely toxic, especially the no man's lands or forbidden zones. Those are deadly areas, extremely foul-smelling to the point of being unbreathable. If you enter a forbidden zone without a mask, you'd probably only survive for 15 minutes. When Rudo was dropped, he also fell into a forbidden zone and almost died. Luckily, his brother and Jin gave him a mask. These masks are also an important factor in Gachiakuta, because all the cleaners must wear masks when fighting the junk beasts to avoid contamination. So, who are the cleaners, and what are the junk beasts? Let's talk about the junk beasts first. They are monsters that exist in the sky realm, formed from piles of trash thrown down from the sky realm. Since the bodies of the junk beasts are made of trash, their appearance is quite diverse, like shapeless demons. But most commonly, they have heads, like antelopes, with large horns. They have no intelligence and act instinctively like animals, ready to attack any human they encounter. And sometimes they even break through barriers to invade towns. They rarely react to human voices, but are very sensitive to loud sounds, and will often rush to attack the source of the sound. The reason a pile of trash like that can function is thanks to the concept. Concept is a source of energy, are transformed from streams of thoughts and emotions, accumulated over time. The energy from intent is capable of causing various phenomena, one of which is giving life to band beasts. Because they operate on intent, they can only be defeated by objects that also contain power from intent, known as Jin. Do you remember the monster that attacked Rudo when he fell into the abyss? That was a band beast. At that time, Rudo used a piece of metal to cut the monster in half, but it immediately regenerated. That proves that they cannot be destroyed without using Jinki. Those who have the ability to bestow power upon an object, and a soul for it to become a Jinki, are called givers. The power system of Gachiakuta also primarily revolves around learning how to control these items. This is what differentiates it from many other anime that only focus on enhancing physical strength. Not everyone can become a giver, and each Jinki has different powers depending on the user. You can't simply pick up an item and go around fighting with it. That item must have deep personal meaning to you. By loving and caring for an item for many years, the user can imbue it with intent, causing it to awaken and possess its own power. When a giver truly awakens their Jinki, they will understand it so well that they'll know what abilities the item will grant, even if it's the first time the weapon has been awakened. The more affection and care a person gives to their item, the more seasoned and powerful that item will become. That is called the quality. Of course, the better the quality, the more superior Jinki's power becomes. When a giver awakens Jinki, their name will be engraved on the object. However, it's also possible to hide or erase the name from the weapon to suppress its power. This will cause Jinki to shrink, and its combat ability to decrease. Jaber, who belongs to the Destruction Society, is also someone who doesn't bother putting his name on his Jinki to add more flavor to fights. Furthermore, the suppression of power can also occur unconsciously, with Amo being a prime example. In general, you'll meet them later. However, there's also a unique case, the inheritance trait, a rare ability that can occur when an item is passed down through generations. Those who inherit this inheritance trait can use the power of Jinki immediately, even if it's not their own item. Basically, it's because their thoughts and ideas align with the quality accumulated over many generations. The givers of Jinki are typically the spellcasters. In Canvas Town, as their Jinki pens are passed down from generation to generation. Due to the premise of love for surrounding objects, the Jinshou in Gachiakuta are very diverse, and not limited to common weapons, like guns or swords. Umbrellas, canes, eyeglasses, power cords, scissors, pens, gloves, and so on and so forth. Anything can become a Jinshi as long as you cherish them enough. From an outsider's perspective, this obsession with objects might seem a bit strange, because it's hard to imagine what it's like for someone to have great affection for a stick or a plug. But through this system, along with a world overflowing with trash, it's also a reminder to us to cherish the objects around us. Don't carelessly throw things away when they can still be used. This world might just give birth to true beasts soon. Jinki are divided into two types, attackers and defenders. If a user wants to maximize the utility of an item, the weapon will become an attacker type. Conversely, if the user tends to preserve objects and doesn't want to damage them, the item will become a defender type. Not used for combat, but providing supportive or non-combat abilities. Therefore, not all givers use Jinki. For combat, some givers possess Jinki that are more For example, Dr. Aisha's Jinki Heal allows her to heal others. Samuel's Jinki Eyes allow him to see through the true nature of people, or the Jinki Pen of the successive enchanters in canvas time can create drawings that act as charms, used for protection or various other functions. As for Root, he possesses Jinki in the form of gloves given to him by Ret. Its ability is quite unique. While most givers can only use one item, Ruto's allows him to harness the power of any object. Saying any object is a bit of an exaggeration. It sounds a bit funny, but he cannot transform good items. He can only use trash, or items belonging to others, just discarded. Because ever since he was little, Ruto always saw value in things others considered useless, so he's very good at giving life to trash. Even a toilet plunger in Ruto's hands can be used as a weapon. When Ruto turns a piece of trash into a weapon, he extracts its full value in a single use. It's like giving it one glorious minute before it fades. Once he deactivates it, it disintegrates. An overpowered ability, but of course, it comes with equivalent limitations. Ruto's gloves allow him to transform items a maximum of 3 times. If he exceeds that, his body will suffer damage, like nosebleeds. He can also combine all 3 uses into one, to triple the power. But the cost is significant stamina drain, and limited tactical options. Later, we learned that Ruto's gloves are part of a set of Jinkai, specifically called the Guardian series. They are closely tied to the plot, rather than just being additions to the power system. So, you should read the manga yourself to learn more. However, there are also people who possess items they always cherish, but still cannot become givers. This is quite important when discussing the structure of the Cleaners organization. In Gachiakuta, the Cleaners are a group of characters who represent justice, fighting against evil forces. This is also the organization that took in and helped Ruto, allowing him to join and supporting his quest to return to the heavens. On paper, the main task of the Cleaners Guild is to eliminate bad. So, if you don't have Jinki, that would be a big problem. Instead, you can become a supporter. This is a small branch within the organization, assisting givers in combat, as well as gathering information. The good thing about Gachiakuta is that there are almost no superfluous characters, especially from the perspective of the Cleaners Guild, as they are the main protagonists of this series. Each person has their own unique abilities, and a specific role in the story. Unlike some series like My Hero Academia, which have tons of characters but only a few get screen time, most members of the Cleaners Guild in Gachiakuta get a chance to shine, even the supporters. So don't underestimate them. If you haven't seen it yet, I believe they will soon get their spotlight. In the near future, the Cleaners Guild also operates in various branches. The head is Boss Aka Covers. If you want to join, just stand in front of the girl, Seimu, and a glance is enough. Because as mentioned earlier, she can see through people's hearts. Seimu also receives reports about Banju from the public, and assigns tasks to everyone. New members also receive training and internships, depending on their role in the guild. Just like interns before officially selling themselves to capitalism, to facilitate operations and management, givers are divided into teams. The manga has introduced quite a few important characters in the guild. Among them, 4 are central. These 4 characters include Manruto, leader Team Engine, the guy most nerfed by the author, Zanka Nijiku, and the charismatic Rio Ripper. All 4 of them belong to the Akuta team, a subunit specializing in frontline combat, although the potential of other members has not yet been unleashed. Just by looking at what this quartet has shown, we can see that they are one of the strongest teams in the entire organization. Furthermore, the cleanup crew also has a group specifically for the little kids, who are still wet behind the ears. These kids are quite cute, but I don't quite understand why there are seasoned individuals like the supporter Grease, who cherish objects but still can't become givers. Yet these kids can cherish something to the extent that, intensely, they can harness the power of objects. That's impressive. When I was their age, I only cherished a few skipped classes to go play, not objects or anything like that. Opposing the cleanup crew is the destructive group, the Raiders. Up until now, the members of this group are currently the main antagonists, specializing in obstructing the cleanup crew. Unlike the cleanup crew, which is divided into givers and supporters, all members of the Raiders are givers, led by Jode and Typhon. Though few in number, everyone possesses impressive abilities, with diverse motivations for joining. For example, the bloodthirsty Jabber, the top oddball among them. Jabber joined the Raiders simply because he is a true violence fanatic. He takes a perverse interest when confronting strong opponents and getting severely beaten. Nevertheless, the Raiders are still a formidable group, and to fully understand their purpose, you should wait for the anime or read the manga. But now, let's move on to learn about Helga. They can be considered the police force of the human realm. Although they don't have malicious intentions, they are quite at odds with the cleanup crew due to conflicting ideologies. They even despise the entire giver system. From their perspective, over-reliance on an item makes people weak. They believe one must adapt to all circumstances without needing fixed tools. If the cleanup crew focuses on eliminating beasts, Helgard, on the other hand, cares about humans. Regarding issues of order and social control, they are elite warriors, trained from a very young age. Overall, Helgard is a rather rigid group. Besides maintaining order, this team also investigates the connection between the heavenly realm and the human realm. Although they haven't been explored much yet, I have a feeling this faction will also play a significant role in the story, and I'm very excited to see them develop further in the future, because they seem pretty cool. And that's everything you need to know about the world of Gachiakuta. Of course, there are still many small details not mentioned, not because I forgot, but because I don't want to accidentally spoil too much for those who haven't read the manga yet. The goal of this video is simply to share the most general overview, enough for you to understand the context. Gachiakuta is still developing, and we are in the middle of an unfinished picture. Look forward to the next developments of Gachiakuta. And don't forget that sometimes what's thrown away is the most valuable thing.